We're all sitting just ready to go.
9 o'clock, we'll call the meeting to order. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, an agenda has been provided before the meeting. Are there any additions or corrections to the agenda as presented?
Mr. Chairman, I have a few additions and corrections, if I may. Under auditor's warrants, please add auditor's warrant for 8/26 of 19. That was a payment to Martinez Concrete for the parking lot project. At 9:15, please add highway engineer Nick Bergman. Got some projects he needs to talk about with us. At 11 o'clock, please scratch Marianne DeGroat off of that and exchange that with Renee Shuck, Veteran Service Officer, for her budget. Marianne is out for the week. There was a family emergency and she's not available this week to be here. So we'll catch up with her at another time. And I do have some basic budget information she shared with me last week, so I can share that. And under other business, please add Minnesota rural counties. Possible action for joining the organization. We can talk about that. Chairman, that's all I have, unless there's anything else.
Mr. Chair, with those additions and corrections, I'll move the agenda.
I'll second that.
A motion second to approve the agenda. Any further discussion? Not all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next up, we have the approval of the consent agenda, which includes the minutes of the special budget meeting on 8/12/19, regular meeting on 8/13/19, auditor warrants of 8/16, 8/23, 8/26, and hospital warrants in a total of $521,881.87.
Mr. Chair, I'd move the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion second to approve the consent agenda. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right. Next up, we have Edison Dengler from the Sheriff's Office. Good morning.
Morning. I am here on behalf of Sheriff Bremen for the approval to purchase. We're looking at purchasing a 2020 Dodge Durango Pursuit vehicle. And what the plan is take that vehicle to replace our 2003 Crown Victoria that we have right now that the jail uses. We're going to take one of the vehicles from a patrol fleet, put that into the jail, and then utilize this Durango for patrol uses. It's a Durango. It's a police pursuit package, so it actually comes with bigger alternator, brakes, and a few other features, and it's wired for law enforcement purposes. We did get two different bids, one from Lockwood Motors for the price of $30,062, and then a bid from Papic Motors for $29,800. So we'd be requesting the approval to purchase the lower bid, which would be through Papic Motors.
Okay.
Is this going to be a black car? Is that what you're, or
Yes.
is that what you decided that? Black?
This one, I believe the sheriff requested black.
Move for approval.
Second.
Okay, we have motion second to approve the vehicle purchase. Any further discussion?
One thing on discussion too.
Yep.
Officer, would you explain why it was that we've been choosing the Dodges? Because of the price differential, that way we can squelch any comment about why you're picking a Dodge over another brand.
Yes, for this purpose, right now we have a bunch of the Ford Explorers, and in a couple years we're going to be replacing those Explorers. The Durango's the other pursuit rated vehicle that's out there without going to like a Chevy Tahoe, which is quite a bit difference in price. It's a higher price going to the Tahoe. These Durangos are mid-sized, they're smaller vehicle, similar to the Explorers. So the sheriff would like to try one of these out, so we know what to expect here in 2 years when we start replacing some of the Explorers.
And I also understand, obviously, it's very difficult to compare one manufacturer to another manufacturer because the specs are all over the board. But in general, you've been finding in your research that the Chrysler products have been more economically priced for us than some of the other ones.
Correct, yes.
Thank you.
Okay, do we have any further discussion? Not all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
And next up, we have Nick Bergman, Highway Engineer. Good morning.
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 So you have a map to go on to. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, in your packets, you should all have 2 requests for board actions and a Minnesota Department of Transportation Agreement Local Bridge Replacement Program should be in your packet as well.
All right, so first item I have today is a request for board action to set a letting date for 4 projects. They're the ones on the map that I handed out. There's 2 on one side, 2 on another. 2 of them are township projects, 2 of them are on our state aid roads. They are box culverts. We just received funding, bond funding for the 2 state aid projects. And we received permission from the state, or funding approval from the state, to go ahead with the township ones. The reason I want to set a letting date right away is because the one township project, the road is gone. The culvert washed out this spring. They were working with FEMA. The road's impassable now. Thought if we let it now, and if we have decent weather this fall, they could possibly put that in so they can get that road back opened. There'll be a completion date of next year on this, and if we get, say we don't like our prices, we just reject all the bids and re-let it later. But this is the best chance of getting that road back open for the township, so that's why I'd like to do that. So really, I guess that's all I have to add to it. The project numbers are SAP 59 599 101, SAP 59 599 108, SAP 59 616 34, and SAP 59 616 36. I should maybe add the state aid ones. One of them is half mile south of Holland, and the other one is on the west side of Hatfield. So,
You need a motion on this to go forward with it, Nick?
yeah, to set a letting date of,
I'd move to approve Nick's request then.
We have a second?
Second.
Okay, a motion second. Further discussion? Dan? No? Okay. If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
all right.
Thank you.
I do have another question for
Oh,
Nick,
yeah.
if you don't mind, if you got just a minute. We had delayed our County Road 13 paving project partially because of this type of thing with the
Yep.
bridges. Have you been able, I know you've been really busy. If you get a chance, maybe swing out there, 13, those where the culverts are at, that could maybe use a little attention again.
Oh, okay, they're getting rough.
It's getting kind of rough.
Yep.
Did you ever try to put the calcium chloride on there, or didn't that work out?
We had roads so soft this year that we didn't think
Never
it
had
was
time to
worth
get
the
to
money
it.
to
Yep.
put it on, because if the roads are soft, it doesn't do any good. It's just gonna break it up right away and kind of a waste. We had a number of spots we usually do that it just wasn't worth the money to do it because we didn't think it'd last, so. So, yeah, that's, unfortunately this year, that's how it ended.
But yeah, I know you guys have had your plate full and then some, but.
Still do, we have
Yeah.
2019 work that's gonna have to wait till 2020, just
Yeah.
too much to get done in 1 year, so.
But if you do get a chance with this recent rain again, those culverts have gotten a little rough again.
Yeah, okay, I'll make a note of that. Next item I have, we got approved our grant, well, which wasn't really a surprise, I guess, but, for the bond money on, the federal box culvert we just approved. When we let it, we gotta send some stuff to the state, then they send us some numbers back in a bond agreement we have to sign if we want the money, so. It's the same, essentially the same agreement we've had in the past. They reformatted it so it looks a little bit different, and they actually made it smaller, which is nice, so. And that comes with a resolution that we need passed as well, so. I believe that was in your packet. Okay.
This is for the one on the Indian Lakes.
Nope, it's on County Road 2, just east of County Road 16. It's at Federal Box.
This-
We had the opening a while ago with Indian Lakes, but since it was federal, we had to get approval from the state after they looked it over before we could award it. We awarded it a couple weeks ago. And we notified them that we awarded it, and then they send this bond stuff back that we have to sign and return to get the money, so. So it's, yeah, we need to approve the local bridge replacement program grant agreement and pass that resolution in the back of it.
Move to approve those.
And that's for both of those items, sorry.
Second.
We have a motion second. Is there any further discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
All right, well, that's all I had for today. Does anybody have any questions for me?
No, I think we're good.
All right.
Thanks, Nick.
Thanks, Nick. Appreciate it.
All right, next up we have Tyler at 9:30.
Just one copy you need right now? Okay.
All right.
You want to wait, or you want to come back?
I can come back.
Okay, sounds good. I'll get the number for you later.
Okay,
Thanks.
sounds good.
Okay, next up we have Auditor Treasurer Tyler Reich. He's not here right now. We'd look to move up some of the other business at this time.
Sure. Mr. Chairman, let's go ahead and take care of the strategic plan,
Strategic, okay.
if that's okay. Mr. Chairman, everybody got copies of this in their box. The department heads discussed it last week at the department head meeting, and they all felt as a group that it was a very worthwhile project to do. And we're very excited, and we're very pleased that our facilitator, Heather Van Deen from MCIT. So this time we can work on it. Board should approve this, and we can go to work and start
Entertain motion.
some ideas and go to work and see if we get some of these going. We know that the one thing that we talked about early on was the Prime West, which made the list as well, but we're dealing with that in an expedient fashion. It's a very, acute strategic planning thing that's going on, so. But we'll just keep that there too, because you don't know how that's gonna affect in years to come too, so.
Right.
Like all of those projects we have, so I think it would be valuable that the county approve this, and so we can go to work on it. If there's any comments or questions or anything?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion we approve.
Second it.
Motion second to approve the Pipestone County Strategic Plan. Any further discussion? Just one note I'll make, since I wasn't able to attend and get put on any of these committees, if any of you guys can't attend one, I'd be glad to sit in for you. So. Or if anything else comes up. So. Okay. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Great. Next, have in your packet the Minute Kranz Reservoir Observation Checklist that was provided to zoning and solid waste through Kyle. He sent it to me, and when these come through, the board needs to approve that. A couple of areas that we're looking at, a couple of remarks. There's some trees growing, like first page item C, number 2, are trees growing on the slope, one tree. Those generally have to get remediated. Some thistles on page 2 are listed there. Unsure of item H, the toe or the foundation, the dry drain is underwater because there's been so much water. Anchor system is listed. Ice is tilted, so we might have to remove some cattails. They're requesting just some maintenance items is what they're looking at here. On page 3, item 6, number 5, exposed reinforcement. It says epoxy is needed to cover the exposed reinforcement at end of conduit, photo taken. That has been attempted in the past. Highway Department had done that work, and they'll have to go out and do it again. But it just comes loose, so they'll deal with that as well. That's who generally has been taking care of it for us. So a lot of times they've been using the mechanic to run out and do that, but we don't have a mechanic right now, and they're a little busy, so it's obviously this isn't going to be a priority issue for them at this point anyway. We do need some spraying done, and I'll talk with Kyle about that. I think we can possibly get the same gentleman that sprays the ditch that Tom Sando spraying out of Marshall, and we'll get him out there to do that as well and get that taken care of. So basically, and the last thing, it says the last time it was operated, 2012, when the valve was replaced. It's generally good notes. They stated that Highway Department has a master key. Area 2 does not have a key and lifts the gate to enter. Good kill on the spraying down in 2018. Nice removal of cattails around the intake structure. So they're pleased with that. And some recommendations: reinstall the trash rack. Number 2, spray the trees and brush and thistles around the edge. Cattails should be sprayed. Number 3, and epoxy the end of the conduit again. So with that, I'd like a motion from the board to approve the inspection and authorize me to sign it, and I will go ahead and send it back to Area 2.
So moved.
And second.
Okay, a motion second to approve the operating maintenance checklist. Any further discussion? Not all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay. We'll go back to Auditor Treasurer Tyler Reich, who's here. Talk about home tax abatement. Do we need to wait till 9:30 for that? Okay, well, we'll continue on with other business at this time. Thanks, Tyler. Was there any personnel, Steve, or is that just?
No, I have no personnel at this time.
Okay.
The only other thing I have on the bottom is regarding the Minnesota rural counties. Remember that Mr. Dan Larson was here a couple, like 4 weeks ago, I think it was now, and visited with us about the possibility of the county joining Minnesota rural counties. I did send an email out yesterday to the commissioners sent by 2 commissioners from Cottonwood County that recommended that Pipestone County consider joining that. I think everyone got that. I don't know if you had a chance to read it or not. It was just a short email. They would really like to see more southern counties start to join the group. I did confirm with Dan what our annual dues would be. It would be $2,200 based on our population. Just bringing it back to the board to see if there's any.
But it would be prorated for this year if we,
If we join.
Right, we'd basically pay $700 for the next 4 months.
Also,
if we decide to do it this year.
Also received another email from Jim Branstad from Ward 1 County too.
I did too.
Did you? Okay. For the same thing, asking for support or us to consider joining. So, any thoughts or comments on that, guys? I know we've met on this a few times.
Interest in it. I don't like being pushed into something, and I don't like people come sell stuff to me all the time. I'm just dropping in, and the 2,200 is, we've already members of AMC, which if they do their job, we shouldn't need this place, this firm. I don't know how many lobbyists we need there. We do have some representatives in Laverne that can bring our message up there too. I don't know. I think it's just another thing to spend money going to meetings and mileage and per diem, and you'll spend another couple $1,000s in going to meetings and per diem to go to this thing. So, but that's my feeling. So.
Luke?
I guess I feel it may be worthwhile just because it seems like that gap between metro and rural is growing. Sometimes our local legislators aren't always bringing our message. And I know just based on their history, they do have a pretty good track record of meeting with a large number of legislators on a, when they do meet, they typically meet during AMC, so it's not an additional trip or cost or whatever.
Do you know offhand how many of those members of MRC are also Prime West counties?
Ooh, quite a few.
That's something I've been kind
I
of
think
thinking
a lot
about
of the
too.
northern counties would be
I think
the
so
bulk of the
too.
prime west counties.
Because if they're really good at lobbying and whatnot, that's something to consider. They should really take our, run to the Capitol with our Prime West issues here too.
Right.
Is there a way to get a feel for, quantitate how effective he will be for us lobbying? Are we going to get the value for our $2,200? I know that's an abstract thought, but we got to justify our expenditure, and I just need a little reassurance that this is going to be money well spent. I'm not saying it isn't, but how could we quantitate whether it is or isn't?
How do you quantitate that with any?
Mm-hmm.
I think
How effective will he be?
we're involved in plenty of efforts to tell our story in the Twin City area, in the metro area, and it's a battle, and it's a losing battle, but yeah, you want to do as much as you can, but still, I think these guys are just trying to make a group employ themselves on somebody else's expense. But that's what lobbyists do. So,
But sadly, without them, you often don't get a lot done either.
It's not I assume it's not a long-term commitment that we can do this annually?
Right, it is, like anything.
Mm-hmm.
well, even if they're the greatest lobbyists in the United States, you're not going to see results right away.
No.
It's going to take years and years, and I think that's the thing with AMC. They got to be such a big group of people, and it's a big organization, and how effective are they anymore? I guess I kind of question that too. They talk big when you go to the meetings, and we did this and we did that, but in the end result, we don't see a lot of change down here. There's been some things they've accomplished, but
County program aid would be one to know it went hard on. But
But one thing about this, we're not, wouldn't be starting from scratch. They do have kind of a proven track record.
Right.
Well, I'm looking at what other organizations that we're part of, what other joint powers that we're part of that do also pay for lobbyists. I know the Minnesota Rural Energy Board has lobbyists that we pay to represent our issues there with that joint powers. Of course, Prime West, we know Prime West has got a lobbyist group that does advocate for us. What other ones are there you guys can think of? Is that the primary area where we actually got lobbying money being spent?
Well, Prime West, they have Tom Lehman.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Doing a good job for Prime West. He
Yep.
keeps us all informed on what's going on.
Right.
Even the landfill has that lobbyist that works on behalf of.
The solid waste has got a lobbyist as
issues.
well too, so
Yeah.
it's not uncommon with our joint powers to have that voice, and I can see where it's necessary. I hate spending the money, but I can see where it's necessary. When Dan was here, I remember we did ask him specifically, though, he pretty much is a one-man show.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's good or bad or indifferent.
I think it would change if you'd get more southern counties.
I think that's why they're putting a big push to get Pipestone County to come in, so they can run around the country and tell everybody else, well, Pipestone joined, you guys should too. They haven't got a foothold down here, and they're looking for it.
Well, they do have a few, is it, what, Cottonwood, wanting one, and
There's one other not too far. Is it Renville?
Redwood or Renville, one of those.
You know. He had kind of alluded about one of the commissioners up in Lyon County, but in visiting with him, he says no, that he doesn't intend to be part of that group either, so it's
But the other thing we gotta think about with the census and the redistricting,
Mm-hmm.
how that all plays into this too. Could you be losing another voice from the area?
Right. And I guess we're gonna get to talk about that at 10.
Right, wrong, or indifferent, that the northern, especially northwestern counties, you look at there, they don't have much more population than we do, in some cases less.
Right.
Trying to get those members involved too.
Well, where do we go from here?
I guess I would make a motion that we do join, just to put it up for discussion.
We have a motion on the table, is there a second?
I guess I'll second the motion for discussion purposes.
Okay, we have a motion second, I'll open it for discussion.
Do we know what their fiscal year is? How does it match up? Does it go calendar year?
Calendar year.
It's calendar year. So if we do this, when would we make it effective? Would you propose that we wait until January to do it so we don't have to mess around with prorating for 2 months, 3 months, or what are your thoughts?
I guess I wondered if we shouldn't do September 1st, just because they're gonna meet at AMC fall policies, you know, where you could have some input prior to the legislative session.
So that'd be a full quarter then.
Be
4
over a
months.
quarter.
Yes.
Any other thoughts or questions or discussion?
I guess if we did do it for a year and a quarter or whatever, we'd find out what could be done and then decide, do we want to continue?
Right.
What impact would it have on our budget? It's a non-budget item for 2019.
I would add it to the budget, put it under dues and subscriptions under the commissioners, and be, I don't know what they'll charge us, if they'll charge us for the remainder of this year or not, or start us fresh at 2020. I'd have to get a hold of Dan and see what he wants to do on that.
Yeah, so we can budget for it for 2020, but
Right.
but 2019 would be an unknown at this point.
Right.
And again, it's not a huge expenditure, but
Well, I think we should really give them 2 or 3 key points that we really are, that really impact us here in Pipestone County and see how that plays out. If they can't hit it, any of these,
Obviously,
2 or 3 key
Prime West
areas,
being the biggest right now.
because this is
the more
something.
voices heard on that very important topic. And then he can also dovetail with some of our other lobbyists through our other joint power groups as well, with solid waste and rural energy and so forth too, of course, all along with the
I'm
Prime
sure
West.
they all work together.
Yeah. Because I just wish that there was some way of gauging the effectiveness of it, so.
Okay. All right, well, I'll call the question. What?
Time would be your gauge, just
Right.
Right.
try it for 1 year, reevaluate, and see what we want to do for 21.
Okay, I'll call the question then. All in favor of joining MRC, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, that takes care of other business at this time. We have 1 minute for you, Tyler, so, for 9:30, so. You can walk slow if you want to, take it.
Morning, everybody.
Morning.
Morning.
All right.
Excuse me.
My watch might be fast.
Yeah. Mr. Chair, if I can, I guess just
Go
still
ahead.
thinking out loud, going back to our representation on this lobbyist group. They always meet at AMC, but it's the day before, so how many of us are going to go to that? And are we gonna pay that extra day per diem if we go to that? Are those things we gotta consider?
I presume that you'd have to have a representative from the board be appointed to MRC.
Representative and an
represent the
alternate.
county at official functions, meetings, that type of thing. as Bruce was alluding to, we will have per diem and mileage involved here.
Yes.
So you'd want to.
You'd have the mileage regardless, because it's at the same event.
True, but if you're going to one place,
Right.
it's saving the.
I think all these things we're involved in, we're paying mileage and per diem to all these things. I think the group that we're supporting this group, they should be paying the per diem and the mileage. If they want people to come to these meetings and put it in their budget and let them pay for some of this stuff. We're paying a lot of money out every year in per diem and mileage here, and it's a big item. And the more we do, the more it costs, and every time you go someplace, it's 100 miles or 50 miles or 40 miles, and pretty soon, yeah, it all adds up. Taxpayers just foot the bill for it, so. And for SRDC pays their own per diem. I think the library should pay per diem to its members too, the Plum Creek. I think they should, I mean, if they want you to be on the membership board, they're the people that are, requesting our input, so.
Yet, if those groups did pay the per diem and mileage, they'd be asking for more money, because you'd have to get it from somewhere.
But that's my feeling. I think we're paying out way too much in mileage and per diems as it is.
Well, do we need, it's already discussion passed on today's meetings. That's something we need to put on the agenda then for next time to figure out who our representative's going to be and how we're going to address that. Would that be the appropriate way to do this?
We have time before next EMC? Do we meet? We meet right before that.
10.
Yeah.
We have two members of the board going to the AMC policy conference, correct?
Correct.
And MRC will be there.
Yes.
Yeah.
We should just go to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If we got time and can go to their meeting at
But
AMC.
But maybe we should put that as an action item for our next meeting, to appoint somebody.
Formalize that,
Yeah, no problem. I will do that.
All right, I think we're definitely past 9:30 now.
Right? There you go. Buy some time. All right, so this is for the public hearing for parcel number 04.028.0500, currently owned by Roger Medetsky, but the property is actually going to be owned by Andy Medetsky. The total abatement amount was $1,993 estimated, for a total of $665 per year. I'm just looking for the approval of that abatement.
Okay, Mr. Chair, I'll move that we approve the abatement for Andy Medetsky.
I'll second it.
Motion second to approve the home tax abatement for Andy Medetsky. Any further discussion? Not all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
All right, thank you.
Well, we've already taken care of all of our other business and our next items here at 10, so I guess we can recess until 10 o'clock.
Sounds good. Information on the 2025 census.
We'll share this one.
And what is in here is, there's a shorter version of the complete count committee guide that I had handed out, that's sent along with it. It's a large detailed guide. This is a general overview, and there's a couple of flyers in here about what's helpful for residents of Pipestone County to know about the census. The Census 101 card, 50 ways census data are used. Again, a lot of this stuff might be academic. For you folks as commissioners about, how census data is used, the benefit of getting a complete count, how it drills down into programs and the like that are based on population count, and I'll go into that.
Okay.
So again, those folders are for information only for you.
Just 1 second, we still need to reconvene our meeting, so officially. We're recording? Okay, meeting's reconvened, carry on, thank you.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Thank you. Sorry about that. Sorry about the formality. Yes, again, so I do appreciate the opportunity to be back here to meet before the commissioners here in Pipestone County. My name is Jim Accurso. I am a partnership specialist with the United States Census Bureau based in St. Paul. Steve and Tyler and I met back in June. I have also met with the city of Pipestone about forming a complete count committee. And Tyler and I, Steve and I have talked about perhaps a joint committee, which we do propose, because around the state we are forming complete count committees at the municipal level, at the county level. The state has a complete count committee. There are community organizations, faith-based organizations, and the like. So complete count committees are organizations where actively civically engaged residents and citizens get together to promote the census, to promote the benefits of the census, the needs to participate in the census for all of the right reasons, so that when the mailer comes, people don't ignore it, they don't just pass on it. Sake of example, I was taking the elevator down this morning at the hotel, down at the Calumet Hotel, and a woman asked what I did, and I told her I work for the census, and she said, well, we're 4. That's all I want to let you know, we're 4 people. Well, I mean, we could use the head count, but again, you know, the more information, the more demographic information we have, of course, will then lead to, you know, the proper distribution of federal funds for a lot of the necessary programs and for many of your hard-to-count populations that you may have here in the county. So I'm here to present our community partnership and engagement program. I'll start it off here with a message from our regional director, Marilyn Sanders, who has been with the Bureau for 42 years. This is her 4th decennial census. She is the regional director over the 8-state Chicago region. When Pipestone County worked with us in 2010, you would have worked with our old Kansas City region. The Kansas City region has gone away. We've downsized from 12 regions to 6, and the 4 contiguous states there along the Mississippi River are now part of the 8-state Chicago region. Of course, you know it is a constitutional mandate, and everyone that we do count everybody every 10 years, residents of all 50 states, and people of all ages, races, ethnic groups, citizens, and non-citizens alike. First decennial census was in 1790, so we're getting on and conducting this every 10 years, and the next census is right around the corner in next year in 2020. And what's at stake is legislative representation through apportionment in the House of Representatives, as well as a number of different boundaries and districts that are drawn based on population count. And in addition to the $675 billion that I alluded to earlier in federal funding that's distributed annually based on population count. So right now, the county is operating on federal funding that has been distributed based on the 2010 count, and the 2020 count will affect the out years of 2021 through 2030. We have redesigned how we're going to collect data this year due to a number of different outside forces that we've not seen in the previous 2010 census. You've got a more mobile population. You've got residents who move much quicker than they used to, live shorter durations in their rental properties, and when they do relocate, they don't get a landline. So they get a mobile phone, so they're harder for us to reach. It can be a hard-to-count population. Renters can. We've got a constrained fiscal environment. You know, we're all asked to do more with less financially and fiscally this year. Rapidly changing use of technology and information explosion. People are inundated with more and more information from more and more sources. We need to understand that dynamic and play in that arena. You've got the distrust in government today that's just kind of omnipresent among a lot of folks. They don't trust a letter that comes from the government, information from the government, and they need to know that this is to their benefit. So a trusted voice in the Complete Count Committee can perhaps overcome that. And you've got a diverse population and changing and more complex living arrangements than we had in the past. What we've done this year is redesign our outreach, and first off, we are starting in the lower left-hand corner. We establish where to count, so we work with the counties, we work with the municipalities on forming an address list, which is indicative of all of the standard, all of the residents with the standard U.S. postal type, U.S. postal city-style addresses. And they will get our mailer next March, informing everybody to go online or pick up the phone and fill out their census form. Those residents that do not have a standard address and get their mail by post office box will be handled by another operation where census workers will go out and drop off packets at their homes. But again, once we establish where to count with the county, we get that information from the Postal Service with the county, with the municipalities, and then we verify that through a couple of other operations we have called the LUCA program. We update the local updating of census addresses. We right now have census workers in the field, and likely Pipestone County residents out making sure that the addresses are accurate. They will go to some homes, a random sample of homes, and ask 3 questions. Ask the resident to repeat the address to them, and if there are additional mailing addresses at the home, perhaps there's a house out back, or the house is split into a duplex or the like. I'm sorry, I don't know the third question, but again, that's our first operation that's in the field right now. It's called address canvassing. So again, just to show that we are working to make sure the integrity of the database, the address database, is sound. Then we move into what the Complete Count Committee is going to do is motivate people to respond. Again, it's a messaging campaign, and it's an encouragement campaign, an education campaign, and an awareness campaign, so that people understand that the census is coming, the needs and importance to participate. And again, there's a number of pieces of information that we have. Some of them are in the flyers there, and we will help with the distribution of those to make sure your residents can understand the many different nuances of the census. Then we do count the population. We will begin counting everybody in remote Alaska in January. We will then roll out our group quarters operation, where we're going to count everybody who lives or resides in group homes, jails, prisons, college dormitories, and the like, so any kind of a group arrangement. That's something that we roll out beginning in February and wrap that up in May. Then the actual mailer that's going to go out again, it's going to go out in the beginning stages of March, and it is a 5-tier mailer, and everyone will get a letter or a postcard directing them to go online and fill out their form. We are not going to send paper questionnaires to every home as we did in the past. In the event someone needs a paper questionnaire, we will ultimately get it to them. But again, the goal is to get people to go online or pick up the phone. The phone option is there for those who are not all that online savvy, or may not want to use the computer. Although we are working with a lot of communities to set up a kiosk, a centrally located kiosk for people to use them. And perhaps we can work on an education campaign, or the Complete Count Committee can help to, alleviate any fears that people have of using the community-based PC. And then this mailer that's going to go out is we are going to count people in real time. So when they get the first phase of the mailer and they do go online and do respond, they won't get the subsequent mailers sent to them. But if they don't reply online, then they're going to get a subsequent mailer, up to 4 mailers before an actual census worker is going to go on and knock on their door, or call them on the phone in our non-response follow-up stage. So if anyone has any concerns about census workers on their property and knocking on their door, all they need to do is fill out their form. And of course, understand beforehand the benefits of why they're filling it out. It takes about 10 minutes. It's 10 questions, and it's going to benefit them immensely. And then once we wrap up our non-response follow-up, we're going to tabulate the results and get them to the president and get them to Congress for reapportionment and redistricting concerns. Now, we re-engineered our field operations. This slide depicts how we're relying much more on technology. Any of the census workers that we're going to be hiring here locally in Pipestone County and in the area are going to be working from home using smartphones and laptops, much like I do. So all of the reporting is going to be on up to their area managers and the like, using technology and using enhanced reporting features. We are going to have 3 area census offices in the state, Minneapolis, Rochester, and Duluth. Pipestone will be reporting into the Rochester office. In the past, we had area census offices around the state. We're not having it this year. We're relying more on technology instead of brick and mortar. And we do take cybersecurity very seriously, just to let everyone know that as the nation's premier data collection agency, we've been doing so for many, many years on the mainframe side. And again, that's what we do. We collect data. We're now going to be collecting it on smart devices through the 10 questions that we ask people to answer. And again, this cybersecurity program that we have, this strategy that we have, again, is continually evolving. We've got federal partnerships working with industry leaders, and we've developed communication plans and incident response plans. In the event that somebody felt that their data was breached, we would work with them one-on-one and make sure that their fears are allayed and that their data is secure, that they feel that their data is secure, and it is. We are hiring around the region. Again, here in the area, we've got some address listers and some census enumerators and takers out in the field now doing our address canvassing. And additionally, we would encourage people to consider applying for the jobs. Again, they are work at home based. And this year it's all online to apply for a census job. They answer 33 situational judgment and biodata questions. This is different than in the past. They had to sit for a 3-part test. They had to pass the first part, which was math, map reading, and English at a certain proficiency level before they could go on to the second and third level. That took the better part of a day. We used to do them at workforce centers and libraries and the like. We don't. Again, everything is online at 2020census.gov/jobs. And they're good paying, flexible hours, part-time. We need to recruit about 40,000 people in the state for about 4,000 jobs for the many different operations that we have. So I'm a partnership specialist. We're hiring partnership specialists around the state. We're still looking for a couple of folks out here in western Minnesota. Those jobs are up on usajobs.gov, and then the hourly part-time jobs are on 2020census.gov/jobs. These are some of the key dates that we're looking at, and I've already touched on the majority of them. The least not being April 1st, being Census Day, so when somebody completes their form, they are going to note where they lived or resided on April 1st. So if they fill it out in March or if they fill it out in May, the reference point is April 1st, which is Census Day. And again, I touched on all of the other dates here on this slide. And I wanted to let you know that we do work at the partnership level with tribal governments, of course, state, county, and municipal governments, community organizations, faith-based institutions. We've got Native Americans working as partnership specialists, calling on the 11 federally recognized tribes here in the state. And as well as, like I mentioned, I have a number of counterparts who are then calling on these other organizations, because our goal is to get as many complete count committees as we can. Organization size and city and county population does not matter, so no county is too large or too small to form a complete count committee in our estimation. And then forming a complete count committee is as easy as sending in a commitment letter to the regional director. And the last 2 bullet points I'd like to focus your attention on, that the committee does organize its own local outreach efforts and provides its own leadership and support. We give you the framework in which to operate. We provide the training, we provide the curriculum for the training, we'll provide you with all the materials that you may need to get to conduct the awareness campaign, but we're not going to direct your efforts. So if you want to send out a reminder to people to participate, or a pledge. I know I saw recently that there's a pledge going around. You pledge to participate in the census. Whatever you decide to do at your level is something that we're not going to correct you on. Again, you've got that autonomy. We give you the framework in which to operate on, because you know your residents much better than we do. And of course, your liaison and your complete count committee are the folks that are engaged, and they would know them much better as well. So again, those folks that are working on the Complete Count Committee, we refer to as census champions, and then the trusted voices in the community. And again, like I mentioned, the trusted voices in the Complete Count Committee does organize their own outreach efforts. They'll monitor any participation. Again, we're going to be counting with some real-time widgets. Once we do get the counting process going and the enumeration process going. You utilize your own resources, and then after we provide the training and support, if you can provide us with a training facility. When I currently to date have conducted about 9 complete count committee trainings around the state, and typically if we can get a location and then invite other municipalities or other counties. I know the city of Laverne, Rock County is considering forming a complete count committee. Lincoln County is having one, is going to have a complete count committee. Yellow Medicine, City of Granite Falls, Redwood, Lyon County. I'm going to Redwood and Lyon County again in a couple of weeks. So again, we could look at putting together resources. You can share some information that way. So, but you could also have your own training if you wanted to have it unique to your group. We could do that too. We'll accommodate you anyway along those lines if you just provide the room for us. This slide is in the complete count committee that you all received, and it indicates who could be included on a complete count committee. You see there are members of the library, business offices, universities and colleges, any regional associations, social services groups. So these are all circles that your residents are going to conduct their daily lives in, and it wouldn't hurt to get a positive message. You know, folks that use city health service, services, county health services and the like at the hospital or from their doctor. You know, children's health care, to get that message out there. Again, it does carry the day coming from a trusted voice. And again, so that's the localization, the sharing, the reinforcing the localization of the census message. It can be done through the media. We encourage a member of the media to be part of the Complete Count Committee that helps carry the day in the, you know, on the editorial page and in the newspaper, on local radio. And then a message again that we do like to get out, of course, is the jobs, and we do want to hire locally, and we do want to work with people in the local communities to count their residents as well. We do reach out to the community organizations around the state. I had mentioned that earlier. And we also work with the Minnesota Council of Nonprofits, among the many other nonprofit associations around the region. Again, the programs that they administer, again, the funding for that is based on population count, so an accurate population count is very critical. The least reason not being that here in Minnesota, I know that there's a possibility that you could lose a congressional seat. You didn't in 2010, so that's one concern, but as well as funding and the like of many other programs. Previous surveys that we have conducted, and you may know that the Census Bureau conducts a number of different surveys year-round. I won't go into the list of them. I think there are flyers in your folders that depicts the many different surveys that we do: the American Community Survey, Housing Survey, Population Survey, and the like. But they have given us information that these demographics can be hard to count for their own unique reasons and need some additional outreach. Interestingly, in the decennial census, children under 5 are often missed. They may be in a living situation where mom or dad feels one or the other, counted the small children, or many times they don't want to report information on their small children. So it does the county and it does the city a disservice by not getting an accurate count. So that message needs to get out. We do have outreach. We have a special program where we count the homeless. We would like that information. In fact, we're going to be collecting that shortly in the address canvassing. Any locations where you think folks may congregate, they're houseless or they're homeless, we'd like that information because we have a special campaign that goes out. Census workers go out over 2 evenings and count the homeless where they may live or reside, and that's up close to April 1st in 2020. The language constraint, we've got outreach this year to 59 languages. The paper questionnaire will be in English and Spanish. The online portal and the phone option are going to be in 12 additional languages, so that's in 13 languages. And then as census workers go out and knock on doors, they're going to have language guides for the additional 47 languages. Millennials can be hard to count. They're kind of new to the game for voting and for participating in government programs, so you need to encourage them for all the right reasons. Those living in poverty and with disabilities, seniors and veterans, for their own unique reasons, they may have had unfavorable experiences with the government, and they see a letter from the government and it just gets put aside and not responded. So additional outreach, as well as your snowbirds. Those that leave for the winter need to know that wherever they fill out their form, they could fill it out in Texas or Alabama or Florida in the spring, but they just need to note that their primary residence is Minnesota. So the message needs to get out to them. If they waited till they got back in April, or whenever the snow melts, I think last year, right, we got snow in May, so that may be pushing that back. But they would be part of that non-response follow-up phase. But again, if they can be filling out their forms early on and get the message out to them early on, that's ideal. So we're in some key communication phases. Right now we're in our gear up phase. We're going to engage everybody beginning in November, a couple of months away when we launch our national communications campaign. We're going to educate and encourage everybody right about the time that the mailers go out, remind those folks that didn't participate to get their forms in the mail or to watch for a census worker, and to encourage anybody that, census workers are in the field for the right reasons to count everybody for their benefit. And then we're going to go around and thank everybody beginning in July of next year. We do have a couple of tools that will indicate participation in previous censuses. You'll see that Minnesota was second in the country in 2010 at an 81% participation rate. And on this map here, I can drill down. I've drilled down here to the county level here. So for Pipestone County, you'll see that that census tract that's highlighted in yellow, or in white up there, the participation rate dropped in 2010 from 2000. It dropped 3 percentage points. So in that tract, you've got a downward trend here. If we went to this census tract or some of the others, we'd get different numbers. Here the numbers are going to jump. They're going to be a different color. Here they're going to go up because it's a darker red. So again, and we can do this by the county level, by the state level, by the city level. I could actually pull up the different cities again. And this is all depicted in the training. This is all up on census.gov. So this is our mail-back participation rate tool. And again, that information is there, and it's indicative, of trends, trends that you may want to reverse. You definitely want to reverse in your mail-back participation. But just know that our other operations, we're confident that our other operations counted the other 24% in the county. But this is the self-response. This is where people get the message and then act accordingly when the mailer arrives. We've got one more tool. It's called our Response Outreach Area Mapper, or our ROAM tool. And again, you'll see that's at census.gov, right up there on our very rich website that anyone in the country can use for all types of information gathering. And here I've highlighted a census tract, and you'll see that the low response score is 13.7. So almost 14% of the population in that tract that's highlighted in blue did not participate in the American Community Survey, which is our old long form. You may remember in 2000 we had a long and a short form. The long form is now the American Community Survey, but it pulls up all of that rich demographic data based on that census tract. If you utilize this slider bar here over on the side, you'll get even more information. You slide down, you'll even get more demographic data that was collected as part of the American Community Survey. You can hit this box here and it'll expand. But it'll give you all kinds of information. It'll give the complete count committee all kinds of information if you need to do some outreach into that census tract. I think it looks like we've got Pipestone here split into two, so we've got an even better participation rate there, because again the colors are reversed on the two maps. But again, you'll get internet connectivity, numbers of renters, occupied and unoccupied housing, veterans, seniors, and the like, and it's all here in this in that tool. And again, that's indicative of the American Community Survey, which goes out to 1 in 38 households every year, unlike the decennial census, which goes out to all households every 10 years. So again, wrapping things up, we'd appreciate if you can help us with training, give us a training location. There is also a webinar option available for those who would like to sit through a couple of hours webinar. The training takes about 2 or 3 hours. It's kind of a larger version of what I'm delivering here today. And forming a CCC, again, we can get rolling with a letter to the regional director, and then we can go forward, name a liaison and committee members with you, help you with that. And the goal, again, is to work together so we can count everyone once and only once and in the right place. We don't want to count people twice, and we don't want to miss them. And here's some links up on our websites where we have more information. The one in the middle there, the partnership links, that's all the many partnership items that we have, promotional items that the Complete Count Committee can use. And I can direct anybody there for the many, many different flyers that we have, the drop-down articles for the newspaper editors and reporters to use. Of course, anyone can work with me and give me a call. I'd be happy to direct them through these many different sites. You'll see that we're on all of the social media channels. There's our jobs links, 2020census.gov jobs, and the other job links off of the regional website. And that's what I've got for everyone today, and I thank you for your time, and I will entertain any questions.
Luke?
You mentioned that snowbirds could specify where their primary residence is.
Mm-hmm.
Is that true of college students also?
Yes, Luke. So the college students, the word is getting out now to the universities that the college students are going to be counted if they're in the dorm or if they're actually counted in off-campus housing. If it's off-campus housing, say up in Marshall, the city of Marshall would give us that address of that off-campus housing. The questionnaire is going to go there, and one of the students is going to have to account for himself and then, or him or herself, and then their roommates as well. And parents need to know that they're not going to account for their students because their children, because they're away from home as a college student.
So they will be counted as part of the college town population?
Part of the college town. Part of the college town, yeah.
Has it always been that way?
It's always been that way.
Okay.
Yeah, it's always been that way.
And then also, at the beginning of the presentation, you mentioned that they were counting citizens and non-citizens.
Mm-hmm.
How can you distinguish if, we hear a lot in the media, that won't be asked?
Yeah, well, it's a count of residents. So a definition of a census is a count of residents, and that's what we've been doing ever since 1790. The whole citizenship thing is something that came about recently, and then became.
I understand.
Yeah,
Right. But
yeah.
I mean, basically, everyone's just being counted, but they won't know, like, how many citizens versus non-citizens.
Oh, no, that's not a question, yeah. So I have a flyer too, it's called Why We Ask. There's also a sample of the questionnaire now up on the census, the 2020 census website. So there is not a question that refers to citizenship or the like. We do ask if a person is of Hispanic or Latino origin, and we've been asking that for a number of years, as well as race and the like.
Right.
But there are just the 10 questions, but we do not ask about citizenship, and the Census Bureau cannot share our information or our data with any other government organization per Title 13. So we all take an oath, all of the census workers take an oath. If we were to go against that oath, we could be imprisoned for up to 5 years and face a $250,000 fine, up to. So again, that's Title 13. I think there's also Title 11 of the federal code that we have to follow by.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So if not the Census Bureau, who keeps track of how many actual citizens there are and how many non-citizens there are in the country?
That might.
One?
I don't know. That might be I don't know who yeah, Bruce. I'm not.
Another group that would have that answer?
Would that be what department is it?
CNN News maybe, or somebody?
Yeah. It's just unfortunate that that's being
It's
being bandied about. Yeah.
To me, it's stupid not to ask that question.
Yeah.
You may
Well,
not answer it honestly anyway, but at least you can. But
It
I
was-
know it's not your choice to make.
Well, it's asked on the American Community Survey, and it was asked on the decennial census in 1950, I think, recently, but it was only asked in the case of if you were naturalized or not. So I think if you answered the question that you're not a naturalized citizen, they may have asked that, but yeah.
Anybody else?
Thank you.
Jim, you've got quite an overwhelming task here to get an accurate count, because, as I said, not missing anybody or not counting twice, and some of that can be accidental. How do you protect against fraud of people intentionally trying to give you a miscount?
Well, Dan, that's a very good question. So with all of our surveys, we, whatever people report to us, whatever they answer, we take that and we compile that data. If it doesn't square with information that they have given us before, say on race or say on age or something, there's a way that the number crunchers can square that and make sure that that's right. So if they, but when I was doing like the housing survey and I went out and gave someone a 50-question survey, whatever information they gave me, I wrote it down, but I could flag it. So if it didn't seem quite right, we could flag it. And then we also do have a quality control operation as part of NRFU, so we will go back. And then if information is not quite right, it doesn't seem to be, to square the circle. A supervisor or someone could make a phone call or knock on the door and get try to get the correct information.
Also, with needing to recruit a workforce to help you with this, of course, working from home, you always hear all sorts of terrible scams of people being taken advantage of. You can work from home, but send us $100 and we'll send you the packet and so
Right.
forth. So on.
Right.
So I hope that we can help the public not become victim to that type of scams too, because I can see it would be ripe for that.
Yeah, and they do, when they do apply, they get their application into the applicant pool. They'll get a call from the regional office, and then then they can be invited in to participate in training and hired from there. Anyone that is hired with the Census Bureau has to complete a federal background check and submit fingerprints. They get reimbursed for their fingerprints. So that's all checked out. That takes about 6 to 8 weeks before someone is actually brought on. So if they have any concerns, they can kind of work through that. But you know, just to know that they are working for the federal government. They all get a badge like we do, and I take it from there. Good question, though. Thank you.
So basically, what can we as Pipestone County do to help facilitate this? You're looking for a possible training room to help train some of your volunteers and some of your employees?
A training room, and then I can work with Steve as far as naming a liaison or someone who you would, it could be someone at the staff or the government level. We don't require that. We look to have some civically engaged students who could, residents who could lead the effort. So naming the committee, and then the committee would get trained, and then, you know, you can take it from there, and then we work again like as consultants with the committee if they have any concerns. Typically work through liaison, or I could work through Steve. I want to say when I was down in was it in Rock County, is it Kyle? Kyle's the commissioner down there. He had mentioned
Administrator.
Administrator. He's got a number of retired school teachers who he sees as leading the complete count committee because they're engaged and that type of thing. So again, it's the mayor of Tracy last night said to me, "Do you want me to name a liaison tonight?" And I said, "No, Mayor, you have a couple of weeks. You know, the sooner the better." But again, somebody, it could be League of Women Voters, it could be election judges, it could be 4-H students, you know, college-age students. It could be anyone who really wants to carry the message.
Thank you, Jim.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Thank you. Thanks for having me back.
Jeff, if you're ready. Come on up.
Switch gears and go to budgets.
Yep.
Hey, Jeff.
How we doing?
Good.
Kind of hard act to follow.
Yeah, it is.
Since here with me, it's kind of anticlimactic.
Do you have a PowerPoint for us?
Well, there was a little bit of a snafu with the malware virus stuff, and so the PowerPoint will be sent out to you at a later date.
That was good. Thank
Thank you, Jim.
Oh, go ahead and start off.
I guess, again, I don't, I used to do the budget, you know, the number crunching for many years. The union didn't want us doing that anymore without being compensated, so the district supervisors do the budget. So Brad Odegaard, the district supervisor, he put it together. Consistently, the only thing that really changes in this budget is the Judy's salary, the insurance, and that type of stuff. And my salary increased steps, which I've been here long enough now that I'm getting towards the end of those. I think there'll only be, in the future, is going to be probably 1 or 2 more than it would be whenever the state does a cost of living increase, which historically isn't that often. So the numbers are pretty, you know, they run pretty consistent. The other items on there to look at are, we do take in some monies for supervision fees. When you're placed on probation in the state of Minnesota, you're assessed a supervision fee. These are just the gross misdemeanor and misdemeanor supervision fees. These go to, that goes into a fund. You'll see that, and I think it's in revenues. That money we use, we turn around and use that for programming in schools, or like anti-drug, anti-bullying, cyber stuff. Edgerton has used a lot in the past few years. We've gotten put in several programs in the school, everything from trafficking and internet cyberbullying, those type of things. Last year we had the cyberbullying there again. So.
How does that dovetail with the Pipestone Area Coalition grant that we've got?
It's separate, totally different entity. And again, every year I make a plea to schools, if you have some programming you'd want, let me know. I have monies available for that.
Is that the refunds and reimbursement?
Correct. The other thing too, and most of you have been here a while, there's 3 entities that pay into this budget. You have the Murray County, Pipestone County, and the state of Minnesota. So there's 3 partners paying into it.
Is your office support then, Judy? Is she part of your budget, or she's part of another labor budget?
She's part of this. This is this budget. She is under. Let's see here. She's everything from 25200, or it would be 6151 down. That's all Judy. Medical. That's all Judy, and then salary. Regular is Judy's salary up at top, and that's 6101. That would be Judy.
And then Jeff, a portion of that is reimbursed back to us by the corrections, right, for Judy?
Yes, that's the joint powers that you get every year you sign it. Essentially what it happens is you get, Pipestone gets charged for what they use. As far from the state, you get kind of like a bill and then it gets charged back. So essentially you're getting what you're signed up to, for. Whereas in other systems, sometimes community corrections or that type of stuff, they get reimbursed. So the state can say, well, we're only going to reimburse you this much this year. So that's kind of the difference there.
Yeah. Every April, Janet and I do a spreadsheet that we are speculating what Judy's salary will be for the next fiscal year through next June. We submit that to Brad. He calculates it out and then eventually works it back into this budget.
Luke?
So then you're listed under professional services?
Correct.
Like the state grant must have gone up slightly, or?
It fluctuated a little bit. I think they've increased. It was at like 32%. I think it got up to I think it's 33%. I'm not.
They gave you a whole 1% increase.
Yeah. So and that percentages of that what they pay back to the counties is that 33%. That's what that number is. So the other thing, would be just my normal steps is basically all it's there.
Sure.
So I don't have any specific questions. Does anybody else?
I don't recall, there's no charge or reimbursement for space, is there? Office space?
No.
We just provide that?
Correct. Yeah, the state picks up like the copy machine and some of the computer stuff for Judy's computers, the state, the intern computer, the FBI computer, all the hardware and stuff. So essentially, there's only, my computer is the only county computer. That's part of the long-standing agreement. And then state used to pick up the phone, but when you guys switched over to the other, then the county pays the phone.
Yeah, I think that's important for the board to hear how that arrangement works, so you have an idea. And then space is working out okay, except for when we
for the last 17 years, it's been I think it's one of the best. It's the prettiest office probably in my area that the other offices that I go to. Just going into the court, being housed in the courthouse is an asset in and of itself. And run right down the hall to law enforcement, or they come over to me. I can run up to the courts. I think being housed in some other areas that there's it's like down the block or whatever, and there's just, I think, a disconnect. I think it's more meaningful for the people coming in. You know, it's the grandiose building that we work in. I think it has an effect on the community. It's, coming into our office especially, it sets a tone. I think that it's nice. Yeah, just a little bit of water this year, but a lot of, I think you guys had bigger issues.
Have you had any air infiltration or water problems there in the past? And I assume, we hope a lot of this will be corrected now, but.
The water, I think it's twice now that I've had water on the floor. This one was quite rapid. I mean, it was you
had a wind from the east there.
Yeah, it was coming through the window well. Because then I was like, I came back from lunch. There was dry, everything's fine. I came back from lunch, and there was like 2 inches of water in the corner of the office.
I don't know that we've addressed any window well leakage at this point, have we?
And I don't know if it was that or it was the line backing up, and it just happened to back up and come underneath the sill there. I was like,
It's the steps in the parking lot drainage are improved, but I don't know about the windows. I don't know.
yeah,
We should look at there. You should let the building.
yeah, I made everybody aware of it. And like I said, I don't know if it was that line that goes under that door. There's that by the little, I call it the bat cave door, the side door there. There is a drain there, and I don't know if that got backed up, which backed up tile around the corner, and it just seeped in at that point. I just went home and grabbed a trash pump and dug the window well out and started pumping it out, so that seemed to...
Didn't Wayne say that grate was clogged?
It did clog up. We had an overnight storm and it blew like heck from the east, and the gravel and stuff got in there, and so he drilled out the holes in there for the drain, made them larger. We tried to, fix that.
That was this spring, wasn't it?
Yeah. Bigger rocks now.
Bigger rocks.
Get the drained water goes. So.
But yeah, I think it was just kind of a, like I said,
Just it was a fluke.
perfect storm type deal.
Yeah, it was just odd that it happened that way.
And the maintenance staff they got fans in there right away, and we moved everything out and we were able to dry it out, and dehumidifiers running, so it never smelled or that musty wet smell or anything. So they got on it right away as Candy, and Wayne did an excellent job there. I think kind of kept the pump going for the rest of that day until it kept seeping in. So we got. If it would have been over the weekend, it would have been a little.
How about your workload? I know law enforcement has commented about how theirs has increased. How are you able to keep up with your workload? I assume that you've had increases as well.
It's been the past, I would say, 4 to 5 years has increased substantially. I'm running at, I always look at my file inbox of new people to sign up, and it's been consistently 20 new files in there. I get it whittled down and thinking, all right, we're getting a lull, and then it fills back up. It just kind of seems to be the theme of, everywhere it's just increasing.
I know it's impossible to predict what the state may or may not do in the form of support. Do you see more personnel here? Does the workload justify more personnel, or is it?
At this point, they will. What will normally happens is they'll look at adjusting with our supervision continuum. What really we're doing is those that are at the very highest end of needs. We're meeting with them more frequently. Those at the lowest end of the need continuum, less frequently, so we can spread it out kind of linear that way. So we're keying on those that need the most intervention versus those that just need, hey, get this done, move on. At this point, it's not unmanageable. I believe we have, and speaking of sport, we have she was going to be here, but to introduce her to you guys, Morgan Woodbury came over from supervised release, which is the intensive supervised release program. She filled in when Paige Larson left, and so we're very lucky to get somebody that coming in with pretty high-end experience. She was dealing with people coming right out of prison, and so to have her step in here, to get somebody here within, it was pretty seamless. After Paige left, it was about 2-3 days, and Morgan was here, so that's been extremely positive. I was concerned. would take a while to get somebody to come in. And normally when we get somebody out here, it's going to be somebody that doesn't have any experience, or they're fresh out of college or something. So that fortunate to have her come in and step right in.
Had interns in the past.
In my 17 years, I think we've had, with Chuck was a big proponent of interns. I think we have, Chuck wanted one for every year that he was here, so that was 4. We had over 40. So, yes.
But right now, basically, it's Morgan, yourself, and Judy as
Correct.
support. So
Yep.
it's a three-man
And,
show.
and we do have other agent, we have the RSI, the supervised release agents are in the area. And then we also have John Rowe, which is a sex offender specific agent that covers Pipestone. He's in the area. So we've, there's other agent, it's just not us. There's other agents in the area.
Okay. Thank you, Jeff.
Yep. Any other questions or anything about probation? I'd gladly.
I don't have anything specific. You guys, anything?
Jeff, is the program under is it community corrections, community probation? What do we call it? We're Murray, Pipestone, and the state, are we?
Yep, what you are is,
Policy.
we're your state, we're what's considered a contract office, but I'm a state employee, so it's Minnesota Department of Corrections. We are contract with Pipestone. The other ones are, and that's, under that system, you partner with the state, and it was developed in the 1950s. Actually, Pipestone historically was one of the first ones. I think it was the first contract office. When they mandated that there was an probation agent in every county for juvenile agents, they helped out counties with smaller populations, smaller tax bases, and that's how the Corrections Act was founded. Then fast forward to the 70s, then the Community Corrections Act came out, where they gave counties opportunity if they had to kind of do their own corrections, or if they had it had to meet population density and funding requirements. And then there was also CPO, which is kind of a combination, whereas under the community correction, you pay for everything. You may or may not get reimbursed. That's what I was talking about earlier. Under the CPO model, the county would pay for the gross misdemeanor juvenile, and the state would pay for the felony agent. So that's the 3 models that are in the state. It's kind of a...
What is Rock Nobles?
They're community.
Community corrections, so.
Yep.
And they're funded strictly through?
The county pays for
levy
everything.
dollars?
Yep.
They get no state funding at all?
They will get the 32% money
Oh, they do, okay,
back.
okay. So those counties are
If,
picking up the other
you know,
basically
that-
66%?
Yeah, what the state, doles back to them. It's not always,
Right.
it's, hey, there's a shortfall, well, you're only getting 20%, or, whereas you get billed
Right,
for what you use.
thank you.
I think that's everything. Thanks, Jeff.
All right, thank you, guys. Nice to see you. Again, Morgan would have been here, but she had a pre-sentence investigation.
Thank you.
You had to work, huh?
Next year, Jeff.
Renee is next.
I'm sorry, what?
See, we have Renee next, but she's
Renee's not-
not here, so I guess we can recess till she arrives.
Okay, we're on.
Okay, it's 11 o'clock. We'll reconvene. We have Renee Shuck, Veteran Service Officer.
Good morning.
Morning.
All right, so I have budgeted for a little bit more than we have in the past, and I don't really know how it added up to be significantly more, because I don't really feel like I added too much fluff in the budget. A lot of the things that I increased, I looked at the activity report and our budget report, and some things we had budgeted for, like, for example, $500, but really we were exceeding that $500 budget, and so I had increased those items to meet with what we had paid in previous years. So those increases were there. Some I decreased because we were budgeting more than what we were actually paying out, so I was trying to meet with those as well. Did you guys get the budget narrative that I had supplied?
No.
No? This explains each item in a row.
How much of your time is spent doing this, 100% or?
100% of my time doing this?
No. Or yeah, is it? Are you 100% VSO?
No.
No, you do something else too.
Yes, the emergency management. Mhm.
Okay, so what's the breakdown?
The 50% for salary.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But she also gets a third or 30% of Danielle's salary out of VSO as well.
Correct. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Because Danielle is split 30, 30, 30, 10. So EMS, VSO, EM, and maintenance. So she's paid. So there's actually, another person in there as well for salary and benefits.
Correct.
And we must have done it different in the past, just based on the difference in salary budgeted?
Part of that is that we didn't have Renee for a while, so we weren't paying
Right.
the dollars out. So we also had an increase depending on what insurances they take. They take family coverage or single coverage.
Right.
So you'd be seeing increases in
I mean,
benefits.
the biggest amount would be just being, the position was vacant for a
Right.
while.
Yep. So that's why it looks a little high. I think if she's got it on track now, it'll be looking a lot more streamlined as we go forward.
I agree.
Compares better to 2018 than the 2019.
Correct. Because you started,
I started in April of 2018.
April of 18.
Mm-hmm. And then we had a period there where Christy had left and then Danielle came in. So then we had a gap there
Okay.
for salaries. I added a budget line for the veterans' transportation. I did that so if the county were to get audited for the monies going out for mileage and transportation, we can easily access just the veterans' funding rather than staff funding for mileage.
What computer software are you anticipating for the next year? See, that was a $500 increase.
So the desktop tower that we have now, Bill wants to get a new one in. The antivirus or the malware software that he's trying to put on the computer is not downloading on that computer. And he says that it is outdated and it's time for new.
Okay.
So he wants to get a new tower.
Okay. Thank you.
It's probably an old Windows 7.
Probably.
I believe it might be Windows 10. It's just outdated.
Water, sewer, electricity, and that kind of, and parking lot maintenance, is that all divided up by the different departments in the facility there? So-
Yes.
So your share just works out to be whatever we've got here.
Yep.
I think you and Casey sit down and come up with those, didn't you? Work through those, your percentages, what you're gonna need the whole, and then divide it out between EM, ESO, EMS. Transit isn't covered in here. They pay their amount as an $850 a month lease payment back to the county.
Usually when we get the bill, Christy would just divide it by 2. So the bill would be split in half.
Well, it has to be paid, it's just a matter of how it
Right.
divided up, doesn't make, I guess it doesn't make that much difference, all kind of comes from the same
Yeah.
source.
Yep. Printing and publishing, I did increase, or remain the same. This calculation includes the cost of the radio ads, which was 3,000, newspaper ads, which is about 500, promotional giveaways, I had budgeted 1,500 for. On here, I don't think I need $1,500 for promotional giveaways. I think with my grant, I anticipated 500 for that. So that is something that we could maybe decrease to try and lower that number.
Do you contract with the radio station for ads so much a month, or they normally give you a better rate if you do that? I assumed you probably did, I didn't know.
Yep, we did the 3,000 for the radio ad. That is we're sponsoring the national anthem, and then they do the military Sundays. And then I think it's like 2 days or 2 ads a day, and that's included in that 3,000, and that's for the year.
So they let you choose the time that those ads run?
I do not choose the time that the ads run. Let's see. The training and registration fees, I remained the same. I think that those are in line with what we spend in that.
Renee, you made a reference to some overtime expenditures. Do you have any way of controlling overtime hours, or is that pretty much necessitated by needs of the veterans?
So I do not really have much that Danielle does for me at this point. Our focus has been for her to get her training done that she needs for her new position with emergency management and the paramedic. So I don't really have any need for overtime. So those costs, we could maybe figure out how Casey's department could maybe pay for those.
Because obviously, overtime normally is time and a half or whatever, and realize that if it's a task that is time sensitive, sometimes it's warranted, but it's something that as a manager you need to really, really keep your eye on and try to minimize that. But I know that it's not always possible.
I just had a couple of questions on the snow removal. It says increase to $1,000. Obviously, I understand why. The actual cost was $920, but then later there's about 6 bullet points down. There's a snow removal paid to highway. Is that in addition to that $1,000 then? That other $500?
The snow removal that's paid to the highway department is for them to haul it away.
Okay.
They bring in the payloaders and the dump trucks and haul it to the fairgrounds. The other snow removal is when Darrell comes in and moves it for us.
Okay. Yeah, I just want clarification. Yeah. Thank you.
Why we've got 2.
Thank you.
And now you know how that works too.
Yeah. So I don't know, it's just gone.
But Dan, to your point on overtime, being Danielle is a 30% employee of all the departments, and the way payroll is done is split by 30%. So if she's putting in overtime, more than likely it's going to be for EMS, but it's still going to be put back to the shared cost of the overtime.
Okay.
So that's, when you're doing a split budget like that, when you're splitting a person several ways, and she does have the ability to get some overtime. So ultimately, the overtime on 3 would be about $2,400 if they're doing it all like that. But so there's going to be a little bit, and if she doesn't late call, that type of thing. It's just the way it works. way we have to
No, and thank you for that. Helps.
track
That
of,
helps clarify.
keep track of the
Yeah.
hours, so, specifically, if she's doing if Renee is doing something, or Danielle's doing something for Renee, she has to go someplace and requires to be, in the evening or something, Casey would be paying part of that overtime budget, would go back to EMS as well, so.
Thank you.
It's just it's gotta be split that way, because the way we've got the budgets set. So, a lot of it is thirds, and Danielle does a little bit for maintenance, that's why it's only 10%. It's primarily scheduling facilities, fairgrounds, the cars, and taking in the rent monies for the rentals of that, and then also taking care of virtually all of Wayne's vouchers and getting his bills and everything ready to go for Sandy, and working and doing yours as well. She's doing that. That's kind of, that split's been there for like ever. It's worked.
All these budgets kind of overlap in the EMS building, and
They do.
so there's going to be a little give and take from one area to the next, but I think overall, it saves money having them
Collaborate.
facility
Oh, yeah.
and
Absolutely.
share some of the duties there, but sometimes it looks a little high for this and a little somebody,
Right.
so it's gonna be a little hard to pinpoint everything there with that many. Are you on natural gas heat there? It says heating fuel, it's not fuel oil, is it?
No, it's
natural
just-
gas. Yeah, okay.
That's just an IFS term for generalization of what it is. We use natural gas for fuel. And those are all splits. So, if you look at most of her budget, telephone, cell phone's gonna come out of hers. Telephone is gonna be split. Postage, that's gonna be split because that's mainly postage meter, and they split that between the departments as well. Internet charges are split as well. Water, sewer, electricity, heat, garbage, maintenance to the buildings and grounds, those are split. Equipment, not too much. Snow removal, rentals and service agreement is another catch-all for the ones that aren't in, like the rugs and the window cleaning and things like that, or the copier. Those are the kind of things that come out of that are also shared too. So.
The one thing that's solely the EMS is the radio advertising at 3,000, and I know that's a hard thing to determine if you're getting your money's worth with that.
And I hot about that for a long time, because Tate Van Rokel, he was the representative that I was dealing with, and when he brought me those numbers, I told him, I said, that's a lot of money.
It's pretty high to me.
It does.
You're not running a business trying to generate sales. Yes, you want people to know you're there, but I think that's an area that might be overspending a little bit for, that's solely your.
Marginal benefit and marginal
Yeah,
cost,
what
are
you're
we
getting
getting?
out of it. But radio is hard to judge when you're advertising on it, I know that, but it is
Yeah.
expensive too.
He did decrease it a little bit. I think the original quote was about $3,500, and I told him I wasn't gonna pay that.
Is there a lower area that they usually offer you a cheaper rate as the dollars go up, but I don't know if you could get something half of that when it still get your message out there. But I don't know, that's kind of your thing. But
Yeah, no, I will definitely look into that. I'll talk to Tate. This is a contract for the next year, so when the year is up, we'll certainly evaluate that, and maybe I'll just ask my veterans too. How did you hear from us? Did you hear our ad on the radio? And if nobody says that they hear the ad on the radio, I'm more than willing to take it
the
off.
radio, somebody announces something, and 5 minutes later, the guy goes and does something else, and you forget what you heard. But if you get a newspaper that comes in and you pay to see the newspaper, the person brings it home and it lays around the house for 2 weeks before they recycle it, and you get a little more chance for them to read that ad more than once and or glance through it. And so I know that's expensive as well, but $3,000 is quite a bit to just be sending out on the radio, I think.
And that $3,000 in the grant budget that we had talked about before, I did budget that $3,000 to come out of the grant.
But your grant could be used for other things as
It
well.
could, absolutely.
Just something to think about, I don't know.
Do you have stuff on the county website?
We do have my information on the county website.
Is there a county Facebook page?
I do have a Facebook page as well.
It's just.
For the department, you do.
For the
yes.
department.
But as a county, no, we don't have one.
So for your department, then you have it on Facebook. So at least that's, and then of course that's free.
Well, I mentioned the bill too. I think a lot of the committees that we sit on, we should have all the links for all those on our page too. All the,
I agree.
there's tons of resources out there that we pay for that I think a lot of our residents don't even know about.
Right.
You know, like one of them that I go to, that nurse-family partnership, how many people really engage in that, you know, and people just don't know it's out there, and if it's on our webpage, links to it, I don't know, stuff I've thought about before
It's
too.
not that hard to add that.
We're already putting a lot of money in this service, we might as well put a link on our site.
Exactly.
You know, we can out of it.
Exactly.
Is Johnson Controls included with the rentals and service agreements?
Yes.
Okay.
And then, to add about the computer software that you were asking about, so I did want to, I see what you were questioning about now. I did want to add a user to the VetraSpec program. That's the program that I use to organize the office with each client. I do want to add Danielle to that so she can be a resource for me in assisting with scanning veterans documents. My goal is to try and make everything on the computer for each client, and that will be a timely process. That's just an end goal for 20 years from now. So that way, if I am away in Bahrain, or I am, you know, for my 2 weeks anywhere else or training, and I have a veteran calling me on the phone asking for help, I can look at their file and see everything that's in their paper file as if I was in the office.
Right.
And so I'd like to have her assist me with that during some downtime, and so she would need to have a login for that.
In fact, that was before I had this handout, and so I didn't see that until.
Oh.
Thanks though.
Remember too, for the board's review, is that when Kathy was here, we went through Danielle's job description for that position, and with Renee as well, and we increased the amount of veteran service responsibility that Danielle has as well, to help reflect that Renee wants that person to do more. So when Christie had left, we took that opportunity to change that. So which was a good move. Personnel committee, of course, looked at that and approved that as well. So we wanted to show that there's going to be more responsibility for VSO in there to definitely assist Renee.
I know, I sure hear a lot of good comments about the job you're doing.
Good. That's great. I'm happy that the community has been very welcoming to me helping them, and it's been very rewarding.
I see you're continuing your outreach too, so that's encouraging. So. Anybody else have any more specific questions?
I don't think so.
So it looks like basically the biggest change is what brought it up 28,000 is really getting a handle on salaries and benefits going forward. It looks like is where we picked that up at. So we have a more realistic budget of where we're actually spending.
All the
For some
numbers.
reason it was artificially low, and for life me, I don't remember how we ended up on 28,697 last year for salary for 19. The split was different. Something was off there. I'm not sure, but now that she's here, I'm doing 50-50. So.
Seems like a lot of.
It probably should have been 38,697 instead of, maybe it just.
Something like, yeah, I don't.
Something happened there.
Yeah, I don't recall. I'll go dig it out and see what I can find on it, but.
Overall, my budget line items, I just tried to guesstimate a little bit more because I'd rather have the money budgeted and not use it than not have enough in there. So that way we have a good gauge of where we're at.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Thanks, Renee. Let's see here.
As for upcoming meetings, we have the AMC Fall Policy Conference up at Arrowhead from September 11th through 13th. And then we have our regular hospital board meeting this afternoon. Is there any other business to come before the board?
Let's take a look at the recorder's budget quick.
Oh,
On
absolutely.
page 30, when I talked to Mary Ann on Sunday, she wanted me just to reiterate it, report a couple of things back to the board that she is planning on continuing her scanning next year as well, is one of the things that she was talking about doing, get some more of the books done. So that may include hiring part-time staff for the summer again. We had two good gals that were teachers that did some very nice work for her. So she's requesting that that's going to happen too. She's got some temporary salary in there too for this year, but she did want to continue with that. And the only other project we've got going is, if you'll remember last year, I came in and brought in, even back when Sharon was here, David Frank from ArcaSearch.
Oh, yeah.
And so we wanted to digitize the commissioner's records and some maps that we have here that we don't have any backups for. And we talked about it last year, and we didn't get it in the budget. I talked to Mary Ann about it, and she is perfectly fine with using the Recorder's Compliance Fund to do that program, which is not paid by levy, it's paid by users into her office. So the only cost the county would then have would be the search function that is an annual payment of $1,400.
Okay.
That would be a levy expense. But all the digitizing, it's the same price as we had last year, is that she was willing to do that. And I believe we need to have a backup of that, and we need another way that people can look at those records, especially the older records, because if you want to find anything, it's going to start, like, I'm going to have to guess as to where to start.
Well, this is encouraging because the original cost was a real tough pill to swallow. That was pretty big.
Yes,
Well,
it
that
was.
and that was we actually had the cost at, let me find it here. Too many pots. It's the same prices we had last year. The bid is $17,305, and that would be done on site. So they would come down here, set up in probably Tyler's back office, set up their equipment, and take all of our records and maps and railroad maps and everything else that Tyler wanted done and digitize it here, because we were concerned about taking the books up to their location, you know, by Wilmer. So they would come down here. So it would be $17,305. That would be paid out of the compliance fund. And then our Compass Eclipse, our cost for the county would be $14.94 per year.
But that feature is wonderful, because I can say from one time having to go through 30-some years of commissioner records in the auditor's office, it'd be much more convenient to just search for whatever, and it would just squirt up. And
That ArcaSearch, you think, even has it so you can search by word too, right?
You can. The
Right.
program's called Compass Eclipse is what it is. And actually, he showed me some counties that had it, and I went in there and just started searching, like, in some information in Lake County. Didn't know what I was looking for. I just put a name or something in there, just trying to see what I could find, and it finds it. I mean, it brings up this nice, beautiful digitized picture of what the minutes are and where it's at. So basically, it costs us $124.50 a month. So we'd have an ongoing cost to the budget of $14.94 for the Eclipse software. And as we're moving into new GIS territory, where we're trying to get more forward-facing stuff for the public to get information from us and look this stuff up without having to come up and grab a book and take our staff time to go find it. You can do it in your jammies from home just by going to our website and linking to it if you want to find some information from a commissioner's meeting or the maps, that type of thing.
Down the road, it could save labor costs.
So how do we move forward with this? We put it on the agenda then for the decision item moving forward, and so we get this thing initiated.
It would be for 2020, so it would be in the budget. And she's got it in the budget for the Recorder Compliance Fund to do that. So we just have to take action on doing that.
Yeah.
But the price has not changed since 2018 when he first provided it to us, which is good.
Now, this is a different way of funding it than what we're looking at before.
Exactly. So it's people that are actually using services out of her office to do that. So we're not doing levy. And I know that was the sticking point, is, you know, it was an expense. So we found another way to do that. So
it doesn't look like she's putting forward a real aggressive type of budget here, so.
no, there's not a whole lot of changes here at all. Just basically the two staff they've got, and so not a whole lot going on. But when she gets back, if there's any specific questions, I'll sure be happy we can get her down here if you want to talk to her. It'd be good to have FaceTime with her anyway.
Yeah.
It's always good to see her.
But thinking ahead to 2021, after this initial cost is gone, couldn't we also move that annual fee into that same?
She said that would be pushing the intent of the compliance fund.
Okay, that's fine.
So
Fair
I'm not
enough.
wasn't gonna
That's why I wanted clarification.
Yep. So she said that the original cost was good, but the ongoing costs, not so much.
So in the reserve account, there's two different lines for document imaging. So one must be for this program you just talked about, and then the other is for her office?
Actually, that's not even in this budget yet. We talked about this after this was printed.
Oh,
So that's not even showing up there at this
okay,
point.
well then what are the two different amounts that are in the current budget? On page 38, under reserve accounts. There's 19,000 and 22,000.
The 22, I'm presuming, is the program she's using now
Okay,
to image more, and the 19, I do not know.
okay.
I can tell you that, yeah, I'm not, there are different subcategories for funding here. You got 2754 as a subcategory, and we got 2755. So
Right.
I'll have to talk to her and see what she's actually taking that out of, what portions of the compliance fund, because those are two different sub-accounts.
Okay,
So anytime there's 4 digits and then 4 digits at the end, that means there's a sub-account. And there were most of them, we just have 000 and then 4 more zeros.
Right.
So those are some sort of a special account that she's got that set for, where she puts specific money in that. So when she gets back, we'll get that information for you.
okay, sounds good.
All I got, Mr. Chair, for today.
Is there any other business to come before the board?
I'd move to adjourn, Mr. Chair.
Second.
Motion second to adjourn. We stand adjourned. Thank you. Not enough time to get a nap now. What time for lunch, though?